Hey listeners, it's Kara, your host. After 176 amazing episodes and hundreds of book recommendations, I wanted to make it a little bit easier for you to find your next great read. The Bookish Lights Roadmap is your guide to all 175 podcast episodes, sorted by genre so you can quickly find the stories that fit your reading mood. From picture books to adult novels and everything in between, it's the perfect way to explore past episodes and discover new favorites. You can find your copy of the Bookish Lights Roadmap at www.bookishlights.com/read/roadmap, or just click the link in the show notes. Hi, I'm Kara Infante, and this is Bookish Flights, a podcast where we tell our stories through our favorite books. Each episode features a bookish guest where we will talk about reading, life, and the seasons we're in, all through a thoughtfully paired book flight of recommendations for you. If you're looking for meaningful book recommendations and a space to slow down, you're in the right place. Welcome back to Bookish Flights. Today's conversation features our latest Year of the Military Spouse installment. I'm joined by Kirst, co-founder of Wives of the Armed Forces, a community created to support and empower military significant others across all branches. While Jen is currently on maternity leave, her heart and vision are woven into everything this community has become. Military spouses experience unemployment rates far higher than the national average, and there's the constant rebuilding in this life. I'm here today to talk with Kirst all about this and the unpredictability of our lives. Welcome to the show, Kirst.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. It feels like I'm missing a limb without Jen here, but it's going to be really fun, I think, to hopefully make her proud and be able to talk about everything that we've done with WAF over the years and what it means for us to be a part of this community.
Yeah, and not only are you guys co-founders, it seems like you're best friends as well.
We are. We always joke that WAF is really what kept our friendship so tight because we met at our very first assignment together. I got married at that assignment. Jen came into that assignment freshly married, and we bonded over our now husband's first appointments. So they had back-to-back deployments.
Okay.
And Jen's husband was gone first. So we spend a lot of time as, a little party of three. I was always the add-on for all their date nights. And then we flopped. And we really bonded quickly. Jen was the one that did my hair and makeup for my wedding. Just like, that's how military friendships are. They're very, very quick and deep. And then, of course, in typical military fashion, right when we were hitting our stride, the military gave us orders. I mean, the day my husband came back from leave from our wedding is when we got orders to tiny little Del Rio, Texas, which was very far from Tacoma, Washington, where we were. And so Jen and I were, of course, heartbroken. And again, in typical military fashion, I was on the hook for packing up and moving our entire house because they sent my husband away to training while we were preparing for this move. So Jen was my de facto husband, and she helped me do all that. So then WAFS was really born in that place of quite literally sitting on my couch as movers were like, ma'am, we need you to move so we can pick this piece of the couch up and move it into the truck. Jen and I were coding the website and starting to build it. So it was the kind of the thing that kept us going despite distance. And especially during COVID, when we weren't able to see each other, we always had this touch point. So life has never been boring in our friendship. We've always had things to talk about.
Yeah. And I think to add to this, right now you guys have children and bigger families and more chaos, and it can be really hard to have those touch points with one another. Like, I feel like now we can at least send reels or memes to our friends like, hey, I love you, I thought of you when I saw this. But really, you're not having a ton of time to always catch up. But this is just another way that you guys can have that, which is beautiful.
Yeah. And it's nice because we talk often about getting outside of yourself, and it's so easy to do in military life to get so overwhelmed by all the things happening to you. So to take yourself out of the equation and serve other people feels so great and gives you the perspective you often need to just move forward. And WAF very much does that for Jen and I. So it's nice to be able to do that with my friend, give back to other people, and then also like have that excuse to always be talking to each other. We've had to actually learn how to communicate with each other So like Marco Polo is our friend space. And then our
Okay.
text messages are like work/friend. Like we'll sneak
Okay.
some friend stuff in there, but typically it's like we're sharing all the life stuff on Marco Polo with each other. And then text messages are things we need to refer back to for work.
Yeah. I love that you have that delineation between the
So
two.
funny.
Because I think, again, like things can get lost when you have just one thread going. So
Yeah.
having that separated out is probably really helpful for both of you.
Yeah, we love it.
Take us back to the beginning of WAF. And things start as an idea. Like, where did you, what were you hoping when you started it?
Yeah, I think both of us were hoping for anything at that point. We felt so alone and hopeless. And it was a very jarring feeling. And I can speak for both of us in this pretty confidently. Jen was fresh out of college, got married. Like she finished college early to get married and move with her husband.
Okay.
I had just finished graduate school and had my dream job and met my husband.
Mhm.
And so both of us were really yanked out of a situation that was very consistent and normal for us and felt, age appropriate. Like this is what we're supposed to do. Moving across the country was shocking all on its own. And then I got there and I wasn't married yet. So I didn't have any built in community according to the military. I
Yeah.
couldn't even get on base when my husband deployed. Someone had to escort me on base, like see him off.
Yeah.
And same thing when he came home because we weren't officially married. So it's really hard when you're in that space to try to find community. And I was doing everything I could think of. I was using Bumble BFF. And at the time I worked in a women's prison. And so like making friends
Yeah.
was tricky.
Yeah.
Like over 75% of the people at my place of employment were incarcerated. So that, I can't really be friends with them.
Yeah.
It's a little inappropriate ethically for a variety of reasons. So it really narrowed down the pool of people. And I was also substantially younger than everybody else working. So it was just really hard. And I remember meeting Jen and just being so grateful. She was so bubbly and so vivacious and welcomed me in. Never felt like I was judged by her for being, just a girlfriend.
Yeah.
But there were some spouses that were not that way. So WAF was born out of that place of loneliness and isolation, of never wanting another significant other to feel that way. Like we know military spouses who have been married for multiple years and don't end up together. And so that isolation of girlfriends has always been very interesting
Yeah.
to us. And that was really, we're like, how can we build an online space where anybody can access the resources at the tip of their fingers, but then also connect it to community so they don't feel like they're alone and they feel seen and understood.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of the frustrations or resentment, like all the negative feelings that you can have in this military lifestyle. I mean, if for those of you that maybe don't know, you can sometimes go on these community pages related to military, and it's a very negative space.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, when you are in community with one another, it's just, even if you're commiserating together, but it's like someone else understands.
Yes. Yep. And we were both so blessed in our experiences. Both of our husbands went to the Air Force Academy. And so they had a good group of friends. And that was also the exposure I started getting, is that as we all started getting married, I was going to these weddings and meeting these other military spouses. And immediately it was like, oh, wait, there's more of us out there that are looking for positive community, are empowered women
Yeah.
that want to be able to help themselves and find solutions to problems, not just sit around and fall victim to what's happening to us. And like meeting all these incredible women doing amazing things, like lawyers, some of them were dual service
Yeah.
military, like having a million kids and still having a full-time career, or being an incredible stay-at-home mom. Like I was just meeting these women that were living their best life in such an empowered way. And that was another part of this, is like, we want this community military spouses to know, like, just because there's a very loud negative presence online for military life, that is not necessarily the majority. And there are other people out there who feel similarly, that this life is an opportunity and want to take advantage of it in a positive way.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that way.
It does not. It's
Yeah.
such an opportunity. I get, like, I talk about that all the time. I would have never moved to Tacoma, Washington if it weren't for the military. I
Yeah.
would have definitely never moved to Del Rio, Texas. I would have not met half of the people that are so valuable and important in my life and have changed my life for the better. I mean, it's crazy. My family dynamic, My sister is married to an Air Force pilot. I am married to an Air Force pilot. My dad was prior Army enlisted. Like just all these key components of what we value and things that we do and who we are woven into this lifestyle because we've allowed it to soften our sharp edges and shape us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a beautiful way of saying it because I always laugh that what I thought I was going to be at 18 or 25, as you're graduating high school, you're graduating grad school, how you think this life trajectory is going to be. And then my husband joins the military, right? And it is nothing that I ever thought it would be, but it's more beautiful than I could have ever imagined.
Absolutely. I know. It's so funny to look back at. I call her Tacoma Kirsty because I was such a different person at that first assignment than I am now.
Yeah.
And both of those, like this person, this version of me and that version of me are both so important to who I have obviously become and who I will continue to become. And I'm just grateful for those experiences, especially now with kids in the picture. I just feel so much more capable of demonstrating to them what I want them to be. I'm not just telling you to be a leader. I'm not just telling you to be self-sufficient. I'm showing you every single day how to do all of those things.
And I think if we've learned anything from parenting, right, we have to model the behavior. We could say something till we are blue in the face, but if we're not modeling it, it's not going to happen. And it's almost easier.
That's right. That's right.
So that obviously started. Do you think that the community has evolved to be so much more than that? I think it has, but I'm obviously on the outside. You guys have so much available.
I know it is so crazy to think about how much it has changed. I mean, genuinely, when we set out, the mission was just to help one person. Like, okay, if there's one person out there that this helps, we have done our job. Never in a million years did we think that we would have a paid team of military spouses and this huge volunteer network and chapters that are going to start meeting in person and these brand partnerships with brands that we have, looked at and used ourselves as military spouses for a long time to be able to amplify huge advocacy efforts. I mean, I'm preparing to go to Capitol Hill and advocate on behalf of military spouse unemployment in the next couple of weeks. And like those types of things were never in the original vision. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely morphed and changed. And I think 100% of that credit goes to the people that are within the community. To your point earlier of some of the online communities or just general military spouse communities being really negative, that is one beautiful thing about what we've seen we were terrified to start a Facebook group. That was the hardest decision we've made to this point is, do we do a Facebook group? Because they're very toxic and scary oftentimes and the butt of every joke that you see in the military space. But we knew we wanted to do it in a different way. And this community responded to that. We said, like, this is not going to be one of those spaces. We all have to police it to make sure it's not. And it is so fascinating when a post will go up and we're like, oh, this could go one of two directions. And the people in the community take it in the direction that we envisioned. So that's their heart for this space and what they're trying to build and what they want for it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking like, if you build it, they will come, right? It just goes to show that other people are looking for that type of positive experience and they want it too. And when they want something, they're going to help you with that, which is
the Iowa references just have to sneak in there sometimes. Yeah. Field of Dreams. I love it.
Exactly. For listeners that maybe haven't even been to your community yet or on your website, can you tell them what they can find there? So they're like, okay, this is going to be helpful for me.
Yeah. So we started the website first. That's what we wanted. That's the cornerstone of everything. That is where we call like the voice of many. So Jen and I are definitely not the end all be all when it comes to military life, military opinions, how to do it, what's best, any of those things. We're two women with two very unique experiences ourselves, representing one branch of the military. So this whole thing started out as wives of the Air Force because we didn't feel like we could speak to any other branches. Yeah. And we weren't sure, speaking of vision, we weren't sure how to make that come to fruition. And everything has always been very intentional and slow with a purpose. We're not trying to rush anything just for the sake of doing it. Yeah. We want to make sure that it makes sense for who we're trying to serve. So it started out as Air Force, and really the backbone of it are these base guides, which are sent in by people within the community. And it's like, where to get your hair done when you go to Del Rio, Texas. What dentist should you use? And it was just this, it's what we wanted. I had no clue when I moved to Tacoma where I should grocery shop, what dentist I should go to, who, how to figure out who's in my TRICARE network when I got married, like any of these things. That's what the website is. You can
Okay.
find anything and everything. And then it's really turned also into a little bit of an online diary in some respects, where we're getting some very emotional takes from military spouses of, emotionally, how were you impacted by your first PCS and what would you have done differently? And talking to that military spouse coming behind you, it's really beautiful and very much something I wish I would have had. And then we obviously have social media, which we were coaxed into by our realtor, ironically, in
Interesting.
Tacoma. She was like, you really need to be on Instagram. And we were both like, no, we don't want to. But again, it's something that's been really beautiful and such a gift to us, because we've had some incredible spouses that we've connected with on there. We've made friends through that space. But we'll see a lot of that, people connecting in the comments and being able then to get access to the resources that they're needing through each other. So we do a lot of talking about Jen and I's personal experience on Instagram, and then tying that into the voices of many on the website. And then we're in the process, which we were just looking at it all earlier this week, of building more of a community component to all of this. So we want to take what we've built online and then encourage people to apply it to in-person relationships, because at the end of the day, like, everything online is so wonderful, but you've got to have people you can hug and hold and talk to. And
you can't replace that.
You cannot. And I think we've really gotten away from that for a variety of reasons. And we're seeing right now, with everything going on globally, the importance of like having your people that are in your circle and shutting out the noise of everything else. So we're really trying to get this going, but we've got WAF chapters that are launching, and they'll be at a variety of locations. San Diego is looking like it's going to be one of the front runners. So
perfect. I was inside. I was thinking, San Diego.
It's up there. It's up there. We're for sure doing, right now we have Camp Lejeune, and then DC and JBLM. And then we're going to be launching what we thought was going to be 2 more chapters by the end of the year. And now it's looking more like 5 to 10 more chapters by the end of the year. So really good stuff. And that's a response to the community. So we're very excited. And then with that chapter component, we are opening up a community space where everyone within the community will be able to easily access each other without relying on social media. So it'll all be through an app where you'll be able to connect and communicate, and you'll see updates, and you'll be able to talk to other people who are PCSing or other people who might have recently experienced a deployment. And it'll all be within this protective little safe bubble of other military spouses who have the same mindset and framework for this lifestyle as you do.
Yeah, that is so wonderful. Because even as you're saying that, I have found it so helpful to speak to someone that has been at the next duty station that we're going to. I remember when we moved to Sicily in particular, and because it's all tile in those houses. So even just finding out the size of the area rugs that we needed to bring from, a friend, it was a patient of mine at the time that connected me with a friend that had previously lived there. And ironically, she ended up moving back to the same house in Sicily on base, because they came back for a second set of orders, and we're now friends. But it was just to have that one thing to ask all of these questions, like what to expect, what do I need? Moving to a foreign country obviously adds a whole other layer to just PCSing. And that was incredibly helpful. So I'm imagining in your community that you could have that as well. Like, hey, anybody stationed at XYZ, can you help me out?
Yeah, well, because what we've noticed too is traditional spouse groups in whatever base or unit, whatever base you're located at, whatever unit or squadron you're a part of, there's not a lot of quality assurance with the experience you're going to get. You just even getting into the group, getting connected, it could be something like text so-and-so who will add you to a list, and then you'll get an email 3 weeks from now. Or it could be like, oh, well, you have to join this obscure Facebook group, and then you'll start getting the invites. It's different.
For me, it's
everywhere.
Like 2 years later, and I'm like, someone will be like, oh, they ombudsman emails. I'm like, the what?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Like, how did I get those? Like, how do I get on there? Like, it's so crazy how different the experience can be location to location. And so what we're hoping to solve with this WAF community is that you will have the same experience no matter what. Like, you will have this hub. And literally all you will do is, if you move from JBLM to DC, is that you will move from the JBLM chapter communication straight down to the DC one, and all your other comms will stay the same. You don't have to do a new profile. You don't have to apply. You don't have to do any of these crazy things. It's just moving from one location to the other, and your experience should be seamless and the same. You know what to expect because you know what the WAF community represents.
Yeah. Yeah. And we forgot to add that you also have your podcast as well.
We do.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like, that's our little fun set. That's really where Jen and I kind of open up and ourselves, because I am a very closed off person just by nature. My dad was a chief of police in my hometown. And then I went into psychology and worked in jails, prisons, and so on. And so I've just always been a very private person. I don't like to overshare on social media because I never know who is looking at my stuff.
Yeah.
But Patreon is a pay to subscribe opportunity for us to share a lot more about our personal experiences. We don't share a lot about our husbands on Instagram. That's really not what the space is for. It's not about them. Yeah. It's about us. We're selfish like that. But Patreon, we talk a little bit more about, our relationship, our marriages, and like things that we're working through and what we're trying to figure out with the different hiccups. Like our most recent was deciding to stay in for another 8 years versus separate and get out. And so I shared a lot about that experience over there. You just can't do that as easily on Instagram or even on the blog. So Patreon is so fun. We love being able to just yap over there.
Yeah. And you guys have some great guests as well. I feel like I've learned a lot from the guests that you have on as well, whether it's just you two or it's the guests that you have on.
We love the guest episodes. I mean, I think that we love the guest episodes for a multitude of reasons because we always learn so much.
Yeah.
And it also gives us an opportunity to then highlight all these incredible military spouses that are out there doing incredible things. Like you could spend every day for the rest of your life and you'd still never capture the full scope of all the incredible work military spouses are doing for the country and the world.
Yeah. I recently have been advocating just amongst my group of friends or even on this podcast that we should be able to put on our resume, stay-at-home mom or military spouse, or just that title alone and all of that it encompasses, because you wear so many hats. I can't obviously speak to fatherhood, so I can't speak to that, but there is no reason we should have to explain like a break in our work history for doing one of those jobs, because I work harder than I've ever worked on that job.
And make the least amount of money I've ever made. No, I totally, it is the career aspect of it all for military spouses is such, and I feel like we're a broken record. But I'm like, we're a broken record because the percentage is only getting worse. Yeah. I've never met a more overqualified, underworked population in my life. And it is so heartbreaking to witness when you sit around the table at a happy hour with a bunch of spouses and hear the breadth of experience they have. And not that it's being wasted, but that it's definitely not being used to its full ability.
Yeah. And it can't shine when, and you're supporting your spouse's lifestyle essentially, right? So yours is all just put on the back burner and it can't really shine of what you are, but we are so much more than just that title.
Yes. It's so awkward going into dinner parties, especially in the DC area. We love it here, but it's everything here is about like what you do and who you are. And so we'll roll into a dinner party. My husband's job is very cool. And so everyone loves to talk to him about his job. And I feel like I love a dinner party because I'm busy eating the apps and drinking the wine. And I'm like, no one's bothering me with any questions. But it's such a good testament to people. They don't know how to talk to a military. They have no idea what the lifestyle is like. They don't understand fully the sacrifices that you're making or the capability and background that a lot of military spouses have. So
I think there's a lot of assumptions.
A lot of assumptions. Yeah. So hopefully we can do a little bit more. That's something that we're also working really hard through WAS is to not be angry at civilians who don't understand, but simply just educate and open the door. Like, hey, ask us questions. You're not going to offend me. Well, me, I can't speak for everybody, but you're not going to offend me by asking some of these questions. Like, well, why don't you work? Oh, I'm happy to talk about the struggles and perils of my career. Let's go.
Because we can understand that you don't understand it, and that's fine. Like, you haven't lived this lifestyle, but I'm like, I have just the same amount of alphabet soup after my name that my husband does, right? Like, it's pretty funny. We actually had the same profession before he joined the Navy. It's just mine is kind of wandered off a little bit.
Put it away. Yes. I know. You're like, maybe it will come back to me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if there is a new military spouse listening to this episode, what would you say is one practical way they can start to connect? And speaking of community, that they can find a community or connect when they get to a new place?
I think that use your significant other as a resource. I think that's a big mistake a lot of military spouses make is that we don't share our struggles with our partner. And oftentimes they want to know what we're struggling with so that they can help. They're the ones that are in the office every single day and hearing what's going on. And I know that my husband, as a testament, he's like, well, I didn't think you'd want to be a part of the spouse group. Like, I need to be a part of the spouse group. Want is out of the equation.
Yeah.
I need to be.
Yeah.
So like that type of miscommunication can happen. So I would say start there. Talk to your partner, tell them how involved you do or don't want to be, and challenge yourself on that. Say yes to more than you would traditionally. You never know who you're going to meet, how it's going to impact you, what resource they're going to connect you with. They might not be your best friend, the person you go to coffee with the first time, but they could be the person that recommends the dentist that ends up being your favorite dentist of all time. You just never know. So you have to really be open to experiences and people that you otherwise might not be.
Yeah. I love that advice because I think that's the backbone of this lifestyle, right? Is you have to be open to it all. Change,
Yep.
people, duty stations, places. Yeah, you have to be open to it all. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about your reading life. Obviously, you are incredibly busy. So how do you fit reading into your life?
I've always loved reading. I've
Okay.
always been an avid reader. And then, of course, like you have kids, you move, all these things happen, and it kind of starts to fall off. But then you pick up one book and it just relights that fire. And that was very much my experience. And that book was Akatar, which makes me like a little cringe from some of the other reading I've done. But I just needed something very mindless and
Yes.
engaging that was going to just like remind me of my passion for this. Like I was a Harry Potter kid. Those books
Yeah.
came out in the prime time of my life. And I was in Hogwarts. I
Yeah.
was a wizard. I was
Yep.
there, like in my brain. So I need that type of imaginative book to like pull me out of the funk. I love historical fiction. Um, and then I love like practical self-help books too, but those aren't the books that get me back into my groove. So I would say like finding the time for me started with that of just reminding myself what I loved about it in the first place and that it doesn't have to be productive in the
Yes.
terms of life. It can just be entertaining. And that's what started it. And then all of a sudden I went from reading like 3 books a year to now like 50 plus books a year. And a lot of it for me is I've just replaced screen time. So we don't have a TV in our bedroom. My husband and
Yeah.
I read before we go to bed. And I love that time and space. And that's part of how we spend our Sundays is we're reading. And it's been really special with the kids because they're reading
Yeah.
now. My
You're
oldest
modeling
is
it.
yeah, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Like we're going through books together, long chapter books, but then they're also reading on their own, and it's fun. Like I actually learned quite a bit through their books too. I've Magic Treehouse has a lot of educational components to it. I'm learning,
Absolutely.
so yeah, it's fun. It's been something that now I'm catching myself. I just like I'll read when I'm eating my lunch. I used to watch Bravo TV when I ate my lunch, so just like little swaps like that. 15 minutes here, and the next thing you know, you're knee deep in a book that you can't put down, and that's the best feeling.
Yeah. I love your point of, giving yourself permission to read what you want to read. I think the moment you can kind of drop, like, I should be reading this book and read what you want to read, it just, like you said, will kind of explode your reading life because you're just going to then get hooked and you're going to wander around the house with the book. As you said, like, I
Yep.
want to know what's going to happen. So here I am wandering around.
Yes. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, I should have been asleep 2 hours ago, but I just needed to finish.
Yeah. Your husband looks over, you're like, you're still awake?
I'm glowing from my
Yeah.
Kindle. I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah. Just gotta know. Well, I ask all the guests to bring 3 books in the form of a book flight. Can you tell us how you chose these books?
Yeah, I think the interesting part for me is that two things. So military life and then reading have both opened up my spiritual life in a way that I never really could have anticipated.
Yeah.
Military life in that it really just breaks you down to your most raw and vulnerable self in so many ways. That really my faith in is a huge part of what makes our marriage successful. My husband
Yeah.
is also very faith filled, and so like him and I come together in that, and that's the cornerstone of everything within our marriage. And then that also then permeates military life and how we handle things. It was not ideal to get orders the day he got back from our wedding.
Yeah.
But we both looked at it like there's a reason for this and we have to trust it. And that reason became very apparent when we got our current assignment in DC, which was his dream job, like the tip
I
of
love that.
the mountain for him. Like he never thought he'd be able to do this. And it only happened because of that trajectory and what we did at that assignment in between. So, it's like hindsight's 50-50 for sure, but there's a lot to be said about trusting God's plan throughout it.
Yeah.
And then reading has done the same for me. So when I find myself going through tough seasons of life, I will find myself reaching for spiritual books, or going to a friend that I know is very spiritual and asking them to recommend a book to me.
Yeah.
And these books for me were all three. Well, I'll say four because one of them is like going to be like my little add-on. Have in some way, shape, or form just like reminded me to keep that cornerstone of faith on fire and then give me practical ways to do that.
Yeah. I love what you're saying before we really quick go into the book flight, because I think that when you live in this transient lifestyle, everything gets stripped away each time you move. And to your point of like peeling back to being raw and vulnerable, but we wouldn't do that level of like excavating ourselves without the push. And I feel like that's God's way of just shaping us and molding us to be a better person.
Yeah, not everybody is cut out for this lifestyle. That is for sure.
Yeah.
But for those of us who have been called to it, and I do very much feel like it's a calling. I can't imagine my life being any other way. And this is the cross that I'm meant to carry. And
Yeah.
I can choose how I do that. I can either suffer wildly for the world to see, or I can carry it with grace and try to figure out what it is he's trying to teach me through this, and hopefully then leave the world in a better place than it was when I found it.
Absolutely. So what's the first book you brought today?
My first book was recommended by another military spouse. Go figure. She loved this book. It's called A Mother's Rule of Life. And the entire book is about creating structure within your home and your vocation of motherhood and how it can really bring you everlasting peace. And the story from the author in this book is heartbreaking. She loses her career and gets it peeled away from her, and her husband's career is not, super lucrative. So they're really trying to make it all work. And it's just beautiful to that point of being stripped raw, a beautiful example of that. And instead of fighting against it, creating a rule or an order that worked for their family. Like, these are our priorities. Here's how we're going to do things. Like she goes in depth. This is like the tangible practicals of like, this is how we set up our order. These are probing questions for you of like how to establish your priorities and how to set up something that will work for you. And it really was such a good conversation starter for my husband and I, as we had little kids, of like, okay, what are our priorities? What do we want our kids to remember about our day to day? Like, what are we showing them? What are we modeling for them? And this book, I think, really helps give you that good starting point of building that foundation.
Oh, I really like that. I haven't heard of it either, so I'm really excited.
It's one of those you're going to need a notebook while you're in. It's definitely, I feel like most of these are ones that I would have to read a chapter and then marinate on it.
Yeah.
And then come back
and implement it probably. Yeah.
Yep. So this is definitely one of those of really, you spend a lot of time in thought and discernment of how does this apply to me?
Okay. All right. So that was A Mother's Rule of Life by Holly Parlow.
Yes.
Okay.
Parlow.
Perfect. Parlow.
She can correct us. Chime in, Holly.
Yeah. And what's the next book you brought today?
My next book is My Sisters the Saints, which was recommended to me by my mother. She found it, and it's one of those that I'm like, I'm going to pass this on to everybody.
Yeah.
And this is an important one for me because I'm a very, I needed good examples, raw examples in my life of how people are doing these things. So when someone talks to me about like, do you have a strong prayer life? I'm like, well, what does that mean? Yeah. What it defines strong? How can we quantify this? Yeah. I'm very analytical in that way. I'm an eldest daughter, like a classic overachiever. So like, I need to know the parameters by which you want me to function.
How do I check that box?
Yes. And so this book, I think, does such a good job of showing you practical examples through female saints. And it does it in a beautiful way of humanizing them, because I think that we can look at saints and think like, wow, like Mother Teresa never did anything wrong, never had any struggles, just served the poor and did it with such a humble heart. Like, how beautiful. That could never be me.
Exactly.
I am so flawed and imperfect. Like I could never. And then on the other hand, I'm like, well, is the only way I'm going to be able to do that is if I join a convent? Is that the type of seclusion? And this book does such a good job of the author takes you through like her struggles as a woman, a career woman, and then meeting her husband and fighting against that because she wanted her career and then wanting to have kids, but not wanting it to affect her career. And just like all these things I feel like I've struggled with myself, and then tying it all into these beautiful examples of saints and their struggles, one of which is Mother Teresa. And she talks in depth about some of the things that Mother Teresa struggled with that I had no clue.
Okay.
And I think it's just a good way to like open your eyes up a little bit to like nobody's road is without suffering, but how you carry it really matters. And I really loved this book for that. I cried through this book. I laughed through this book. I think the author does such a beautiful job of giving you really strong theological history and storytelling, but then also really relatable pieces from her life that feel digestible and not, not overwhelming.
That and like, I can do this too.
Yeah, very inspiring.
Okay, so that was My Sisters the Saints by Colleen Campbell. And what's the next book you brought?
The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, which I'm sure some people listening or a lot of people listening have heard of. I listened to this one. I didn't read this one. My husband read it. I listened and I really liked listening to it because he reads it. And I think that you get a better understanding of some of his points by listening versus because it would be funny. My husband would show me an excerpt from the book. I'm like, that is not how I interpreted that, how you're taking it from reading it. So
interesting.
Take that with a grain of salt, but I really enjoyed it because I think what this book has forced me to do is slow down. He gives an example even in here of if you're the person that's always driving in the fast lane and frustrated because you're trying to pass cars that are going too slow, have you ever thought about just being in the slow lane and getting where you're going in the slow lane? And it's like a metaphor for life as well, but like literally me on the highway, I just need to chill out a little bit. Everything doesn't have to be rushed and in a hurry. And again, having kids, I feel like it's very easy to slip into that of like, hey, we got to go. We're going to be late. Grab your coat, get your shoes on, grab your bag, all the things. And this was a good reminder of really what matters. If we are late, is it the end of the world? Can I drive in the slow lane and not pass 15 cars on my way? It's not a game. Life is not a game. I don't get more points for passing 5 cars on the way here. And just like talks you through practical ways that you can implement it. Some of them were a little extreme for me. He talks about wearing the same 3 outfits all the time. And I'm like, that won't work for me, but I can see how it would work for you. Middle-aged dad, living in the Pacific Northwest. That makes sense to me. But like every mom out there is like, whoa, that's scary. So I think that he does a very, very good job though, of just reminding you of what's important and drawing that back to scripture. And that type of evidence is really important for me too, because again, it's like, I need to know the parameters in which I'm meant to function. And so that tie back to scripture is also important. It's not his idea, right? Like this is coming from God. And that felt really good to have that evidence there. And then that inspiration for being very intentional with how I'm spending my time.
Yeah. This conversation is so good because I'm thinking about, we were stationed in Sicily, which I think I've said already on this episode, but one of the things as we were getting ready to move back to the States was, well, what do we want to keep from this lifestyle we have here to take with us? And what basically were the lessons that we learned from living here? And life is so much slower in Sicily in the best way. Mm-hmm. And it might have been, we had really young kids at the time, right? Like newborns and 2-year-olds and young kids too, which I think life is a bit slower then. But that was what we wanted to take back, was this slower lifestyle and keep that. And I'm going to give myself probably an F right now because I am so busy. Like my husband and I are both volunteering, which is great, right? There's so many good things, but we are like, I feel like our life has exploded and it is not slow.
I know.
And that is one beautiful thing of PCSing, is it allows you to strip everything and then be like, well, what do I want to get involved in at this next duty station? You get to start over.
Yes.
Without the awkward, like, I think I'm just going to step back from doing this, which can be really challenging in volunteer roles. But yeah, it's given me a lot to marinate on, even as we're talking, of just like, oh man, we have really slipped from that like slower pace that we wanted to keep.
Like to say these books punched me in the face would be an understatement. And this one is, it's so funny you say that because we just did a 10-day trip in Europe and, you know, we've traveled there 3 times now as a married couple. This time was the first time with the kids. And every time we come back, we're like, oh, we definitely just need to slow things down. It makes it very hard culturally because no one else is doing this here, which he offers a very good encouragement in this book of how to be countercultural.
Yeah.
And it goes into, you know, finding your people that are also deeply valuing intentional time and surrounding yourself with them so that when you say like, no, I can't take this on, they're not personally offended. They understand what you're protecting.
Yeah.
And man, that feels so good when you can get to that point.
Yeah. Ooh, I really like that. Okay. So that was The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. And then you have your little add-on today. So what's the last one?
So my daughter and I have been reading through the Chronicles of Narnia, which I had read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but I had never read the rest. Yeah. And I've always loved The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe until I read The Horse and His Boy. And there's multiple points throughout that book that I'm reading, she's sitting next to me and I'm like sobbing through it because the beautiful parallels he draws to God being with you through this, you know, perilous journey that you're on where you can't really see what's coming down the road, but he was always there with you the entire time. There's just this very specific scene that stood out to me where the main character, the boy, is on his own. He's been separated from the horse and the crew he was traveling with, and he's walking up this mountain and he can't see. He just feels the edge of the side of the mountain next to him, and it's just darkness. But he feels comforted because he can't see, but he knows something is walking there with him. And it turns out to be Aslan, the lion, God. Yeah. And it's just the way that he writes that whole section and walks you through it. Like it's a small taste in this book, but I just really appreciated how simple you know, like my 7-year-old is picking up on it. And I'm like, you know, who is Aslan? She knows, she's got it. Like God was always with him. Like I need that childlike understanding of trust in God. And so it's just like, that's the reminder I need. Like that at the end of the day, if I can, all the practical life tips and advice and all these other things are wonderful. But if you don't start with that, none of the other stuff is going to be successful for you.
Yeah, absolutely. He was 5 at the time. He just turned 6 this weekend, but just like a month ago, we're in the car and it was around Easter. So he was like, well, Jesus didn't really die because he's always with us in our hearts. And I was just like, what?
I know.
Like in the best way possible. Like how in your little 5-year-old understanding do you realize that more than I do sometimes in these moments?
I know. Yeah. It's like the littlest things. I'm so grateful for kids and their childlike love because there will be something like I'll be frustrated because we can't find something we're looking for.
Yeah.
And both the kids will just drop to their knees and start saying prayers. I'm like asking for St. Anthony's intercession. And I'm like, up. I'm like, honestly, I needed that. I needed to remind myself like it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And 2, like it'll turn up or it won't. And like, it'll be okay. But like, God's got it figured out. You know, we will move on. So it's just so sweet when they have those moments where they show you their childlike love and you're reminded of it. I really do think that C.S. Lewis does such a beautiful job of that in that book and the whole series, of course. Yeah. But that book really was it just like really caught me off guard because I was not expecting it with the way that story started. So.
And that's how you could tell a really good children's book. It's been a while since we've talked about kids' books on the show, but parents, you should love it too. There's so much great literature out there for your kids that can be for the whole family. So
yes. I agree with that 100%. It's been so fun instead of just having her read it through it on her own or listen to it on Yodo that we're going through it together. It gives us a lot to talk about. So I love it.
Absolutely. So that was The Horse and His Boy by C.S. Lewis. Well, thank you so much for bringing those books. How I love to end our show is with a speed round of questions you can answer really quick. Are you a rereader?
No.
Okay. Where is your favorite place to read?
In bed.
Okay. What is one book you've read that has changed your life?
Oh, I'm like the Bible. I mean, I would say I feel so shallow saying ACOTAR, but like that's the book that resparked me. Yeah. But I would say Harry Potter very much changed my whole relationship with reading.
I love it. And lastly, what are you reading next?
Right now I just finished a book last night. I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually have oh, what is the name of it right now off the top of my head? My Friends.
Oh,
what is
Frederick
that's
Backman.
Yes, I've got him on my list. I just finished another one of his books, and his writing is very unique. So I feel
Yeah.
like I have to stick with him once I get onto him,
Yeah.
because then otherwise I go back to another book. I'm like, what is going on? So
Yeah.
yes, I'm very excited to dive back into one of his books.
Yeah. I've heard great things. So you'll have to tell me how it is.
I will.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I know your time is precious and I appreciate all you've given me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. It is such an honor. I absolutely adore everything that you're doing. And I've got a bunch of lined up from your book club that I can't wait to dive into. So
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today with Kirst of Wives of the Armed Forces. Her book flight included books that reminded her to keep faith as the cornerstone in her life. You can find all the books that we talked about today at bookishflights.com. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Your review not only helps the show, but it also helps the podcast to reach others. Make sure you are subscribed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to make sure you will not miss an episode. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. As Emma Thompson said, I think books are like people in the sense that they'll turn up in your life when you most need them. Cheers to you, dear readers. Until next time.